Hey, it's Josephine from the Pointe Shop. I'm on my Pointe fitting tour from California to Chicago. I'm stopping at Nevada Ballet Theatre and I'm with MacDonald, who is an artist with the Nevada Ballet Theatre, and she's going to share some Pointe fitting hacks with us. Okay, so we're going to talk about your shoes and all the wonderful things that you do to them, all the scary things that you do to them. What kind of shoes do you wear right now?
I wear Free Classics, and they are my special makeup ones, so I have a lot of customizations that I've had them do to the original shoe.
Okay, so what kind of customs do you have on your shoes?
So on my shoes, I used to wear Maker Neptune, and my customizations that I have them make is I replace the drawstring with an elastic drawstring, so it hugs better to the foot. And I have them cut down the sides so that it shows more of my arch and instep. I have them bring it up a little bit in the heel so it doesn't slip off. In my old specs, I got what was called a combined shank. So it was almost, I cut it a little bit. So normally this extends out and it's almost like a double shank in the shoe. And that adds a lot more support because I have really flexible feet. So I like to have something that's gonna help keep them up a little bit more. I usually start with the most alarming part. I usually line up my thumb just below where my foot bends in the shank. And I pop it and fold basically the entire shoe in half. And that's gonna release one of the nails in it. And then I'll fold it the other way to get the rest of the nail out.
I hear so many people gasping right now.
I know, I've shown a few non-dancers how I do it and they're just going like, oh my God, you just broke your shoe in half.
I know,
Yep.
How much are these?
Exactly.
So don't do this if you're a beginner.
No, and if you tend to kill shanks quickly and don't have a lot of shoes on hand,
that's right.
It's a risky business too. The next thing that I do, and these shoes actually don't look like they're gonna be super gluey, but a lot of the time once I do that, I'll bend the shoe and all these little glue crumbles will fall out. So it's good to do it over a trash can. And the next thing I do, you can see here now there's two different nails that are visible. And in my new specs, actually, they're not gonna have this nail anymore, so it'll save me an extra 30 seconds whenever I break in my shoes. Because I then peel back this little insole, and since they're sharp on the bottom, I use scissors to pop out the nail. And for me, getting rid of that nail lets the shank bend and mold more to my foot as opposed to holding the two sections together. And you can see now, the shank is broken right here on the inside, and I like that because it kind of shows me where I need to then begin modifying. I usually take this part of the shank, and this is where you have to just use some brute force. I cut that off because it doesn't really do me any good because I just need the support up to there, and past there my foot bends anyway. So.
Yes, because you're a strong dancer.
Right.
So if you have really flexible feet, but if you don't have the strength yet, this is not the best way to customize your shoe because you'll just roll over.
Exactly, and like you want to make sure you can really support your own foot on point as opposed to relying on the shoe, because then if it's cut and you just sink down, you're not going to be getting enough support and the shoe will die even faster.
Yes, exactly.
So the next thing that I do is, because now all this stuff in here is separated, I don't like it when anything's rolling up in my shoe. So I will take, this is actually what I use for my toe tape as well. So it's super easy. I always have it on hand, and I'll just wrap the inside like this.
So it's nice and smooth too.
It's nice and smooth, and it actually gives a nice little bit of cushion on the inside, which sometimes you do notice if you've been standing on your feet all day. The shank kind of tends to dig into the heel. So I like having this there, and then it keeps everything just kind of attached together. So that's what I do to the shank part of the shoe. And from there, I will usually step on the shoe. So I'll have it go. I usually turn it just sideways. Some people step on it this way, but I like to just turn it here, and I just go like that. It flattens out the shoe so my metatarsals fit properly into it, because I have wider metatarsals and a narrow heel.
Right.
So I will do that, and then once I've done that to both shoes, I'll put them on my feet. I figure out my right and left foot. Before I adjust the drawstring, I'll sew on my ribbons and elastics. Drawstrings last, because once you tighten the drawstring, it all cinches up and it makes sewing really difficult.
That's true.
And then my final thing is the jet glue. So for the jet glue, and I always do this before I wear them.
Yes.
Some people like to glue their shoes after they've worn them once, and I used to do that, but I realized it actually made them die faster because now that I know where it needs support, I can just glue.
And that's an interesting point that you bring up too, because a lot of dancers, they think that you have to put the glue after the shoe's like dying, but it actually does make the shoe die faster because it'll just get into the cracks that you've already made and then it'll make it snap. So I always recommend that the dancers jet glue the shoe when they're brand new.
I agree.
And then just like add a little bit more at a time if you need it throughout the life of your pointe shoe.
And that's exactly what I do. I glue where I know I'm gonna need extra support in the shoe. And then from there, I can then kind of add on every time. So what I do is I'll glue just where I know is underneath where my foot breaks the shank. So I'll glue just a little square like this. Then the only other spot that I glue is I basically line the inside of the tip with the glue because that is another space that dies for me. Because again, if you're doing a lot of partnering or anything where you're basically on pointe for longer than an échappé, you tends to break through that tip of the shoe. So I just pour the glue in.
And I also have to warn you, if you jet glue too much, the shoe can get really loud.
Yes.
And it can get very hard. So I would do a trial run first. Just do a little bit, and then for your next pair, add a little bit more if you need it, but don't go crazy for the first time.
And I actually always tell that to the students that I teach too. I always say never jet glue your shoes by yourself the first few times you do it. Like come to me, make sure that there's someone watching you because if you jet glue wrong, you're ruining the shoes.
Exactly. There goes $100.
Yeah, and it's not good.
No.
And then it just kind of lines the inside.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice just clear little line. And then I sew them and put them on my feet and start dancing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for showing us your pointe shoe hacks. And again, this is Caroline MacDonald. She's going to be in Dracula in October 25th through the 28th at the Smith Center in Las Vegas. So if you guys are in town, you should go watch her. I'll see you guys later.